Now, I've been in disaster recovery for about 20 years now. So I've basically focused on that my entire career, whether it's backup, restoring, replication, site-to-site failover. I'm hoping to use some of that experience to tell you guys why I love Infrascale and give you a technical introduction to Infrascale's disaster recovery solutions. Now, we do have the two different product lines. We've got backup and disaster recovery. So for backup, we can grab all those endpoints and put them onto the cloud and give you the ability to restore them. With our cloud application backup, we can back up stuff like Office 365, G Suite, and that kind of data and protect it and restore it. But I'm going to be focused on disaster recovery. And when we talk about disaster recovery, we've got two different flavors of disaster recovery. We've got Infrascale Disaster Recovery Local and Infrascale Disaster Recovery Cloud. Now, I'm probably going to start saying IDR instead of saying Infrascale Disaster Recovery. So if I start using that, just know that that's Infrascale Disaster Recovery. The difference between the two, it's kind of in the name, right? So with local, we give you the ability to back stuff up locally, do file and folder restores, boot stuff locally on the appliance, and all that. Also to replicate as an archive out to the cloud. With the cloud solution, we give you everything the local solutions got, but we also add in the ability to boot up in the cloud. And we give you orchestration tools in the cloud to be able to manage how you're going to boot those servers up in the cloud.
So the backups that you do for Office 365 and the rest of it, that's considered, it's considered backup, okay.
Yeah, it's backup, and it's going to be cloud-to-cloud backup. So there's no software really to install for that one. You just configure our cloud to be able to interact with theirs and back those up.
And your service is located in Amazon? Is that where it's hosted?
For our cloud backup?
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't believe so, but I can find out before this is done.
But it's a cloud service, right?
Yeah, it's a cloud service.
The different cloud providers, okay.
So you don't provide any service for server backup, VMware and...
Yeah, so that's exactly what this service does for us. So it allows us to go out there and back up any of the modern file systems out there, whether they're physical or virtual, VMware, Hyper-V. So we have integrations already built with those. We have bootstrap verification. So basically we give you visual proof that not only were your backups, we told you they're successful, we'll boot them on the appliance and show you that we're successful. We give you unlimited version history as far as keeping it on the local appliance. And then when we bring in the cloud appliance, we let you replicate as many restore points to the cloud as you want to. So you can have that granularity to recover. And one of the things that we do that's really unique for us, and we'll get more in detail in it, is the way that we store the data. You can boot from any point in time without any performance impact. So most products, they just got that latest version ready. We actually let you boot from any restore point that you've got with the same performance as the most recent one.
Does that mean you put agents on the servers?
For physical servers, yes. For virtual environments, we don't need to. So we actually integrate with VMware. With Hyper-V, we do put an agent on the Hyper-V server itself, but via that, we can protect all the guests.
And which clouds do you support as targets?
We can get into that toward the end. We've got some slides around that.
And do you offer something where I can boot up a VM in a bubble to get data out of it?
Yes, absolutely. So we have an isolated private network. You can also boot it off the network on top of our appliance to be able to get in there. We give you console access to that. But we're going to see a lot of that and talk about a lot of that.
Okay.
So here's our agenda. Basically, we're going to start out with getting started, right? How do we set this up? We ship out the appliance to a customer. How do they get things up and running? How do they configure their first backup? And when we back up a machine, we call it a client. So if I say clients, that's just things that we're protecting. We're also going to talk here about what is the appliance, right? I keep saying appliance, but it's an appliance-based solution. So we're going to grab all the local data, push it down to that appliance, and then we're going to replicate that out to the cloud. That primary appliance, we're going to do a demo on that. So what can we do for local failover if we have a micro disaster? What does it look like to boot stuff up on that local appliance? Then we're going to go to the cloud side. We're going to look at what it looks like to boot stuff up in the cloud. And then we'll talk about how we access that data that's running in our cloud. Then we'll look at failing back. I think that's one of the parts that people overlook a lot, right? Getting the data backed up, restoring it, getting it up to the cloud, then running in the cloud. They automate a lot of that. A lot of them skip the step of how do we get it back on-prem. And we've got a 1, 2, 3 click method to be able to get it back on-prem. So it's very easy to do that. And And then we'll talk about all the extras.
So
Talk about,
do you integrate with like site recovery manager and stuff like that?
we don't. Yeah, we would actually, you would use our appliance in lieu of Site Recovery Manager. And then we'll talk about all the extras, all the stuff that we do that's different in the industry and gives us that leading edge. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see here, this is kind of a typical customer environment. We've got some applications, some workstations. We've got physical servers, virtual servers. We can protect, again, workstation class OSs. You know, I back up my laptop, I back up my desktop that I use with this appliance. We've got the appliance, again, locally. It's taking in all of that data. It's deduping and compressing and encrypting that data. And then it's replicating what you want to replicate out to the secondary appliance. So usually that's in the Infrascale Cloud, but it doesn't have to be. And again, it's what you want to replicate. It doesn't have to be everything. So in this one, we're specifically going to look at configuring our first client. We're going to run a backup. We're going to look at our default job schedules and retention.
Sorry, I didn't understand. So you provide a backup appliance to each single customer, right?
Correct.
That could be physical or virtual.
Correct.
Okay. And then you back up on a secondary appliance that you own. And again, it could be physical or virtual.
So yeah, we have the local appliance,
Yeah.
which goes on wherever the data is. And then we replicate to a secondary appliance.
Okay.
The secondary appliance can be in a public cloud, Infrascale Cloud, a different customer's data center. We can provide them either with the physical or virtual secondary, and they can manage it, or they can put it in our cloud.
Okay, so all the data that you manage, those 350 petabytes are separated.
Well, that's across our different solutions too. So that's also the direct-to-cloud and cloud application and this appliance.
You just scale per appliance for customers, so you've got one appliance over there, but if they need more, it's just more appliances that you add?
So when we'll get into sizing the appliances and we'll talk about the different appliances and stuff. I have a specific slide around that one.
Okay.
So this will start up our first demo. Again, we're going to go over setting up a client, retention, schedules, seeding the backups. We do dedupe locally, and we use that to do our replication. So seeding is getting that first set of data written down, and then we'll look at boot verification. All right, so you're going to see this a lot. The first step is logging into our centralized dashboard. So this lets us see all of our different solutions, so whether it's cloud backup or application backup or disaster recovery. But for DR, we'll go to Manage DR Sites and Appliances.
By the way, get this on the YouTube as well, because it looks a lot better than what's up on YouTube right now.
So we have our Tech Field Day appliance that we'll log into. We can see that this is a new appliance. I just set it up. So when it logs in, we can see it's only backed itself up. So by default, it's going to automatically protect itself. But we're going to go ahead and configure our first backup client here. So we'll go up to Clients, and we'll go over to the VMware tab. Now, like I said earlier when we were talking, we don't need an agent for VMware. So we're simply going to put in the IP address for either our ESX server or our vCenter server. And then we'll put in our credentials, and that'll connect. Now, if you have vCenter and you use vMotion, definitely recommend doing that. That way we'll be able to follow the server as it fails around. If we don't do that, we'd have to back it up individually each time. Here we can automatically register all the VMs. I'm not going to do that. I want to go out and pick the individual ones I want to protect. When I hit OK, it's going to go out, query the environment, and come back and show us all the virtual machines that are out. And now I just simply go in and I say, all right, clearly we want to protect the most important server ever. And then we'll also grab a Windows 10 2012 R2. All we have to do is click register. And now we can see that it's going to tell us where they're hosted. And then it's going to change it over here so we have schedules for all those machines. So now they're automatically going to be backed up with the default schedules and use the default retention that we have configured. Now it's just as easy to stop backing something up. You can just right-click and unregister it. Here we'll go in and we'll look at job schedules. Everything dropped into this VMware CBT schedule by default. We can see the 3 clients are in there. If we double-click on that, we can see it's going to do fulls on Saturday and incrementals throughout the week. We can come over here and we can click on New, And we can add in more points in time that we want to create recovery. We could say we want to do it hourly, or we want to do a quarterly backup that's special, or anything like that. So it's really easy to configure the schedule. I like to keep them nice and simple, but I've got clients that have 32 different schedules they've configured for the different ways they want to back machines up.
You don't do an incremental forever?
We can do incremental forever.
Okay.
Here we have our retention. So we have 3 different types of retention. We have regular file and folder backup, we've got DR image backups, and then virtual is what we're doing right now. And if we look at the backup, and we're going to keep all of them for 7 days, we're going to keep just the last backup of the day for a certain amount of time, last backup of the week for a certain amount of time. That way you can have that granularity without storing thousands and thousands of backups. Now here we can see we've got our clients. I want to turn on replication, but before I do that, I need to back something up. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do a manual backup of my 2012 server. We jump over to the VMware tab. We can see that it's going to run that backup for us. Now I did speed this backup a little bit up since we have a limited amount of time. So we're going to see it saves the disk pretty quickly. Now that we've got our backup, we actually have something that we can replicate. So we can go over to the replication tab and we can enable our replication. Now one thing that I like about our replication is it's essentially one click to get it up and running. A lot of the solutions I've worked for before, it's pretty complicated. Here we just go mode options. We tell it we want to go to cloud, which is the Infrascale Cloud, and we simply click continue.
Do you guys support or have any plans to support storage replication?
No. Well, not at this time. Here we're going to turn on, we get the green checkbox. That tells us our replication's up and running. We can see when it was set up. If we go over to status, we can see again here we've got our green checkbox. It's up and running here. And now we're going to see things start to drop into the replication queue. Now, as I discussed a little bit earlier, we do a deduped file system, and we do that globally between our local and our cloud appliance. So it's only going to send those unique blocks. Right now, this is our first backup, so it's got to send everything, right? It's got to seed that cloud appliance. But we do have options for seeding that data. You can ship us a hard drive that's already got seeded data on it, and we can load it. That way, you don't have to send all that data across the internet. And typically, our larger customers or our customers with limited bandwidth options seed the data up to the cloud via some method like shipping a hard drive. Now that we've got it backed up to the cloud, the last thing I want to touch on here is our boot verification. So we just did that backup, and while we were doing all that, it booted it up locally on the appliance with no networking and took a screenshot to show us not only did we back it up, we told you it was successful, here we're showing you it was successful. And it'll do the boot verifications during whatever time frame that you want to schedule, and it can send you out an email alert that shows you all the servers daily or weekly so that you can see that visually things are protected and things are bootable.
Do you have a mechanism to back up a group of machines that are consistent at a certain point in time? Consistency group.
Yeah, like consistency group, yeah, CGs.
So I have, a complex application that is split in 15 servers, databases, web servers, application servers, and all. And I have to be sure that the application is consistent. Everything has to be backed up at the same instant, so that when I restore everything, it's everything at the same instant. And second question, when I do the disaster recovery thing, I want to be sure that all the machines, like a runbook, no? Everything starts at a specific point. So, and I want to check that everything is okay before starting the next machine, or even run commands before getting the next machine done.
So currently we could schedule them all to back up at the same time, but if you're talking about doing like an application integration that does something, we do have the ability to do pre and post scripts that could set that in motion, but we don't currently have a methodology for that. But we can definitely talk more about that. We've got some time set at the end for questions, so we can drill a little bit more into exactly what functionality you're looking for there.
But you don't have a consistency group?
We don't have currently a consistency group for backups.
Okay.
You would have to schedule them into a schedule that goes together.
And the playbook thing, so the fact that
Yeah, we do have orchestration, and we'll demonstrate that. A couple things here, you know, VMware, we don't need an agent, so that's good. The seeding of data, the unique dedupe file system, that's something that works not only locally, but between local and the cloud. And then boot verification, I really like this feature. So we had a question earlier about the appliances. These are the default appliances that we've got. You know, how do we come up with what appliance a customer needs? Well, we go through a sizing exercise. We look at how much data do they have? How frequently are they backing it up? How long do they want to retain that data? And how much CPU, RAM do they need to be able to run their critical workloads? And based off that information, we spec out the right appliance for that customer. And our goal when we do that is to make the appliance big enough that it can be on-prem with them for at least the next 3 years. Now, if they happen to outgrow it in that time period, we will swap them out with a larger appliance. And then also, if there's any hardware issues, we'll absolutely fix those. It's fully warranted under us.
So you don't support multiple appliances in a configuration?
Yeah,
We can do multiple appliances.
okay.
And we also have software-based appliance. So it
there are
doesn't have to be
certainly
physical.
customers that have more than 126 terabytes.
Absolutely.
Well, that's deduped though, right?
It is.
Sure, but
You'd be shocked at how good our dedupe is. It's fairly frequently that we'll see the amount of data we're protecting is much larger than the amount of data we're storing on the appliance.
And you do simulated fulls effectively? So you're doing incremental backups?
We can do, so you can set up fulls, you can set up incrementals, we can do incrementals forever. It's really up to how you want to configure it. But we can take the, well, actually we have a whole section on synthetics. So let's talk about that when we,
I didn't see any integration with side the VMware environment for like snapshots or that kind of thing. It's all agent-based, right? Per VM?
no, so for VMware, we integrate with VMware. We just put in the credentials and connect to it, and it'll bring up all the virtual machines. You choose what you want to protect, and we have VMware use its tools to create the snapshots and just send us the change block.
You are doing, okay, CPTs, yeah.
Yep.
And so they're application aware too?
We do have an agent that you can install for application aware for like physical machines, but for VMware, we're going to use their tools to quiesce the VM and back it up.
So like for Oracle and SQL Server and?
SQL Exchange.